Hey there guys, in today's video I'm going to get started on setting up a fish tank. I actually want to have a new fish tank in my living room, but instead of going out to buy a brand new tank from the store, I actually have a fish tank that I have just had empty in storage for a couple of years at this point. So in today's video I'm going to show you guys how I clean up an old fish tank, how I check to make sure that it is safe to hold fish, and how I get it ready to then develop it as an actual fish tank. So maybe if you go out to a garage sale or anything like that, you find an old fish tank. These are going to be some tips and tricks that you guys can use to rehabilitate an old fish tank. So if that's something you guys want to see, you want to make sure to stick around. That's going to be coming up right after this. Hey there guys, this is Jack over at Hi Redbird, where I am tirelessly working to find new ways to make the keeping of exotic animals and pets more exciting, more affordable, and ultimately more enjoyable. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about how to rehabilitate an old fish tank. Now I actually have an old fish tank that is a couple of years old, hasn't had fish in it for quite some time. It's just been sitting in storage, and I decided I wanted to set it up because quarantine is a wonderful time to start new hobbies or restart hobbies. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a fish tank. Now, I wanted to put this video together because if you guys go out, if you find an aquarium on the side of the road, if you find one at a garage sale, if one of your friends is getting out of aquariums, or they have one in storage and they just want to give it to you, these are going to be some ways that you can check and make sure that the aquarium is clean. You want to get it set up as close to nice and new as possible. So this is going to be a way to go ahead, rehabilitate that, but also to check to make sure that that aquarium is safe. So we're going to be covering cleaning the glass and then also doing a water test on the aquarium. So there are a couple of materials that you are going to need. And the first thing I'm going to tell you that you are not going to need is soap. You do not want to use any soap or any kind of detergent inside an aquarium. Because you are going to have a very hard, almost impossible time getting all of that residue of the soap out of the aquarium. Do not use any soap in your aquarium. Now, to do this project, the first thing you're going to need is you are going to need an old aquarium. Obviously, you can't rehabilitate an aquarium if you don't have one. So go ahead and get yourself an aquarium. Today, I'm going to be working on a 20-gallon tall aquarium. The only reason it's not in the frame right now is because it would make it a lot harder to see me. Plus, the angle I would have it would mean that my face through the aquarium onto the camera would look like it was going through a funhouse mirror. And I'm going to be honest, I record these videos about 4 to 5 times already just because I'm not happy with the way that I look on screen. So we certainly weren't going to do that. But you'll see that aquarium in just a minute. Now, a couple of items you're going to need for cleaning the aquarium. One thing I recommend for cleaning aquariums is distilled white vinegar. It is going to help dissolve all of the calcification that is on the glass. You can use vinegar to clean the outside of the glass. So that is one of my favorite things to use. Obviously, paper towels, you can use that to wipe it down. You can use it to help hold the vinegar onto the glass for a little bit longer if you have a lot of really thick calcium deposits on your glass. You are going to need some razor blades. Now, you're just going to want some straight-edged razor blades. You don't want the ones that have the angles that are built for utility knives, because those are going to run the risk of cutting into the silicone. They can scrape your glass a lot easier. These straight-edged razor blades are going to be one of the best things to use for cleaning out an aquarium. Now, they can be a little bit difficult to handle on their own, so I definitely recommend getting a paint scraper. A paint scraper just gives you a good handle. It gives you a little bit more leverage, and it locks the razor blade into place. So you can have your hand well away from the razor blade, and even if you apply pressure, there's no real risk of that razor blade slipping out of your grip. If you're just holding a razor blade, there is a chance, especially as you're cleaning up those calcifications on the glass, that it could hit a bump, it could bump up, cut yourself. You don't want to do that. Now, when we do our water test, there are a couple of items we're going to need. One thing I recommend is either newspaper or butcher paper or cardboard to go ahead and put under the aquarium as you are doing a water test. That way you can see the coloration of that much easier. If you do it on a countertop, I'm going to do this on a countertop. It's a marbled granite countertop, so it makes it a lot harder to see if there's a little bit of water anywhere. But here I have some pieces of thin corrugated cardboard. I'm just going to put that underneath it, and that's going to show me if there are any leaks in the aquarium. Now, other things you're going to want, I'm going to use some painter's tape. When I fill up that aquarium for a water test, I'm going to use the painter tape to mark the level that the water is, let it sit for a while, and then I will come back to it, check to make sure that that water is at the exact same level. You can also use a dry erase marker, but I just have painter's tape on hand, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. If you use a dry erase marker, you want to make sure that the glass is completely dry when you mark it. It will not mark if there's already water on the glass. Now, if you leave dry erase marker on glass or any other surface for a prolonged period of time, and I'm not going to say that people who do things with aquariums will leave aquarium supplies sitting out in common areas of the home for extended periods of time, but I think anyone who lives with anyone who has aquariums would gladly say that. So if you leave the dry erase marker on the glass for a long period of time, or if it's a cheaper dry erase marker and it doesn't completely remove itself, one thing I keep for doing prep work on aquariums is just alcohol prep pads. The little bit of gauze gives you a little bit of grip. The alcohol will dissolve that really well. Not only can you use that for your dry erase marker to remove that, but it's also a great way to clean the inside of the glass if you are wanting to then adhere anything with silicone or anything like that. If you're wanting to build some custom inserts for your aquarium, it's a great way to clean the outside of the glass if you're wanting to do a painted background on the back, just to make sure that you get a really nice even coverage. So those are going to be all of the supplies that we need to clean up and rehabilitate an old aquarium. All right, guys, so there are a couple of things you're going to want to do when you are refurbishing an old fish tank. The first thing you're going to want to do is you want to go ahead and visually inspect all of the glass panes. You want to make sure that there aren't any cracks, anything broken, because obviously if the glass is broken, the aquarium is not going to hold water, so you want to just go ahead and give up on this process at that point. I'm going to go ahead and take a second to pretend like I haven't already checked the glass before I started filming this video, and it looks good. So we are going to go ahead and move on to the next step. You want to go ahead and take a look at all of the silicone seams on the inside of the aquarium. If you notice that they are completely broken or peeling away from the glass, that's going to be problematic. Again, they're not going to be able to hold water there, so you can pretty much avoid doing this next step. The silicone seams should be intact, should still be very clearly adhered to the glass, and they should actually still feel pretty pliable if it's still a good aquarium. As aquariums get older, especially if they've been sitting out and sitting dry, those silicone seams can dry out, they can start to crack. Even before they fully crack all the way, you can have a problem where they're already starting to leak water. So if you have visually examined your aquarium, you have checked the seams and the glass, then you can start moving forward with refurbishing this aquarium. Now, one really cool thing about this aquarium, for a lot of people when they do their fish tanks, one of the easiest ways to get a lot of impact from the things that are inside the fish tank, they will paint the back glass. They'll even sometimes paint the side glass, as has been done on this aquarium here. Now, luckily, I know the person who did this aquarium last time because it was me. So this was actually not painted. It was done with Plasti-Dip, which is a spray rubberized product. It's safe to use on the back of the aquarium because you're not brushing it on because it's an aerosol product. You don't end up with any brush strokes. You end up with a nice, clean, matte finish. And one of the really cool things, if I can find my paint scraper, if you ever want to go ahead and change it out, all you want to do is go right for the corner. You want to go ahead and just start to lightly peel it away. Once you have enough that you can get a good grab on it, you can start peeling. And as you can see, it'll peel away nicely all in one solid piece. So you don't have to sit there and scrape away on the paint on the back of the aquarium because it's all mostly coming away. You're still going to have a little bit probably in the seams and the corners where you'll have to clean that up a bit more. But as you can see, once you get a really good grip on it, it comes off very nicely, and that'll save you some energy because we're going to need that for scraping and cleaning the inside of the aquarium. But before we move on to that, the very next step we want to do before we put any more work into this aquarium is doing a water test. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the counter so we can get that started. All right, guys, so we are ready to go ahead and do a water test on this aquarium. We did clear off a section of counter. It is right next to the sink, and since I have a nozzle right here, I can fill the aquarium very easily and then drain it out into the sink. So that will make it really, really easy to do. Obviously, I am not particularly worried about this aquarium because it was mine before. I know how it was kept. I know how it was stored. But again, since it was stored, there is a little bit of concern that it might have developed a leak. Obviously, if you were doing this with an aquarium that you bought at like a garage sale or anything like that, you probably want to be a little bit more cautious. You may want to do your water test somewhere like a garage or a porch. But I'm going to go ahead and do this right here on the kitchen counter because I am reasonably certain that this aquarium will hold water just fine. And in the event that it doesn't and everything goes terribly wrong, I'm going to delete this video and it will never see the light of day, so no one will even know. Now, when I prep a space to do a water test on the aquarium, normally what I like to do is set down some kind of paper product. You can do newspaper, butcher paper. Here I have some really thin pieces of corrugated cardboard. Now, the reason I like to use that is because if there is even the slightest amount of a leak on this aquarium, you will be able to see it on this paper. Now, if you just had that aquarium on the countertop, that might be a little bit harder to assess. Maybe you would even think, hey, I just splashed that water as I was filling it up, because it's not much. But if you use the paper or cardboard, you'll have a really good time with that. Now, one thing you want to remember is that the aquarium wants to be on level ground. So, since I am using something like cardboard that is going to raise it up just a little bit, I have to make sure that I have enough to fully cover the entire base of the aquarium so the entire frame is sitting at the same level. So here I actually have some 2 half pieces because I have checked this aquarium for size for this countertop, and it is going to fit just barely. But now all I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully pick up the aquarium, set it down. Let's try to not knock over the cake stand or anything else while I'm doing that. And now you do the very simple process of filling the aquarium up with water. So we're going to do a couple of things. One, we'll be able to assess all of our cardboard to see if there's any leak that is going on. The other thing we will do, we will use our painter's tape. You could also use a dry erase marker for this. Fill up the aquarium. You usually don't fill it up to the exact top above that frame. You'll usually fill it to maybe half an inch below that. Mark that water level with a piece of painter's tape, and then go ahead, let the aquarium sit. I would recommend at least a couple of hours. Overnight is going to be really safe. And if you just want to dive head on into the aquarium hobby, the best thing to do is to go ahead, take your aquarium, set it on a counter, and basically leave it holding water until somebody else in your household asks you how long that's going to be there. That part was a joke. I want to make sure everyone knows that part was a joke. Don't blame me if you get yelled at for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that ready. We're going to get this filled up and get this water test started. All right, guys, now if after a few hours your water level is still where you have marked it, you can move on to the next step. A couple of things I forgot to mention as you are doing this. First one, normally in an aquarium you would want to make sure you are using dechlorinated water. For something like a water test, we're going to go ahead and toss all that water out, so it doesn't really matter. You can go ahead and use tap water directly from the sink. You just want to make sure that you're not using any chemicals or anything like that. You want to avoid things like dish soap or anything like that. The other thing you want to remember is you want to make sure you are not using ice cold water. If you are using ice cold water and you have any kind of humidity in your air, what can happen if you're familiar with having a cold drink, condensation will form on the outside. It will make it look as though it is leaking when really it's just condensing the humidity that's in the air. So I used lukewarm water. You can see that the water is held at the level I have marked it. I can check on the cardboard that I have around the aquarium that there are no leaks. And because I have that cardboard under the aquarium as well, I can actually look through the aquarium, through the bottom of the glass, and see that what is under that is not damp in any way, shape, or form. So if that's all good, you can go ahead and move on to the next step of the getting this aquarium ready, which is going to be draining out to the water. Now you're going to want to use some type of siphon to do that. You never want to try to just tip the aquarium over. First of all, this is going to be pretty heavy. At a 20-gallon aquarium that is a little bit more than 3/4 of the way full, you are going to be looking at probably around 150 to 175 pounds of water right here. So you would hurt yourself. You could also possibly hurt the aquarium. An aquarium is designed to hold glass in a stable, or to hold water, rather, in a stable position. If you move it around, you can jostle those seams, which are not meant to take that movement. So you want to make sure that you keep this aquarium nice and stable until you get all of that water drained out using a siphon. So if you guys want to go ahead and do that with your aquarium, if you're following along with me, or if you just want to watch, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we will move on to the next step of cleaning up this old aquarium. Alright guys, so now that our water test is complete, we are ready to actually clean this aquarium. So if you get a used aquarium from just about anywhere, you are going to notice this calcification on the glass. Now it's going to look a lot worse when the aquarium is empty. When it's full of water, it'll still be a little bit cloudy, but it won't be as noticeable. Of course, if your aquarium is very, very old, it might have scratches, or it might have etching from the calcification that forms from just minerals that are found in the water. This aquarium isn't too old and it isn't too bad, so all we're going to need to clean this up is a razor blade and a little bit of hard work. So you can go to just about any hardware store and get basic straight edge razor blades. Now I do recommend, if you go ahead and visit the paint section, you'll be able to get a paint scraper. It's just going to be a holder for that razor blade, so you'll have the ability to have a little bit more control over it. Now all you want to do, you want to take your time because you don't want to scratch or damage the glass. Usually you have the best luck if you can try to get the blade as close to parallel with the glass as possible, and you're just going to go ahead and scrape back and forth. And as you can see, all of that calcification will start to just flake off, and the glass will get a little bit cleaner. Now there are a couple of tricks you can do to this while this is going on. So the first thing you can do, if you have an aquarium that has a ton of calcification and you don't want to work this hard with a razor blade, one thing you can do is go ahead and gently set it on whatever side you want to work on first as the bottom layer of the aquarium. So we'll go ahead and do that. You can see there's still a little bit of water in there from when I did that water test. Now all we're going to do is we're going to take some paper towels, can set them where that calcification is the worst, and we are just going to pour on a little bit of distilled white vinegar. Now that'll absorb into the paper towels, it'll hold it into place, and it will start dissolving that calcification. So you can do that if it's really bad. You can also just take a paper towel that is loaded up with some distilled white vinegar. As you're scraping, go ahead, wipe the glass down with that too. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to finish detailing out this aquarium, just like I said, using a paint scraper and a razor blade to clean off as much of that calcification as possible. Using the vinegar then to completely wipe down the inside. It'll dissolve any little bits that are left, and I'll see you guys as soon as that's all done. Hey there guys, just a quick update as I am working on this glass. So one thing you'll start to notice as you're going, I'll be scraping along and it's just not taking off as much. The razor blade may have gone dull. So if that's the case, just go ahead and change it out. You'll have a much easier time with that. And the other thing you want to remember as you are doing this, you can scrape along the glass. You want to be really careful around these silicone seams though. You don't want to cut that, you don't want to separate that from the glass. So just be very careful. You can get close to it, but don't take the silicone off. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and I'll see you guys in just a minute. All right, guys, now that is all that is going to be going into cleaning up this aquarium. So as you can see, the glass is really nice and clear. Let me try to put hands or something else behind it so you can see. Right now, all it's picking up is glare from the lights around it. It's really, really easy to get an aquarium rehabilitated. We were able to check with a water test to make sure that this aquarium does still hold water. The seams are doing great, so I'm really, really excited for this. So I definitely encourage you guys to go ahead, if you have an old aquarium, go ahead and rehabilitate it. It's not necessarily past its prime just because there's a little bit of spotting on the glass. You can always clean it up and get it back to being a nice new aquarium. So I definitely encourage you guys to go ahead, try that out. I do want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you like this video, go ahead and leave it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to the channel where I am constantly putting together new animal-related educational videos, DIY tutorials, and some videos where it's just looking at really, really fun animals, because I know we all like to enjoy that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get ready to start setting this aquarium up because I obviously need another cage to clean. So I want to thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. All right, bye.